Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more cup of coffee and culture's Genshin Impact lore podcast. I'm your host for today, Jside from the Genshin Guys podcast, but you can also call me Josh. So, in this episode of One More Cup of Coffee, we'll be joined by fellow Genshin content creator Silicon. Yeah, welcome, Silicon.
Hello. Hello,
Hello,
everyone.
hello, hello. So, Silicon, how are you today? Before we get started, how are you? How are you
I'm
doing?
doing pretty well. I'm doing pretty well. Excited to be here on the podcast. Excited to talk about Genshin lore.
Nice. You got water?
I got plenty of water with some ice too.
Nice. Perfect. Perfect. So, um, before we talk about our main content today, I usually like to start with a little bit of getting to know each other. So, like, first, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, who are you? Where are you based? Like, what do you like doing on your off time?
All right, yeah. So in my off time, I usually like just chilling around with some video games, playing some instruments, and going on runs sometimes. And now that it's warmer, I can finally do that again.
Nice. Nice.
But I'm from up in New England, so the weather up here, it's all over the place. Like today, it's a bit cooler, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to be even cooler tomorrow, and then it's going to get warm again, and it's back and forth, up, down, all around.
Great.
So fun times.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's nice. Good to know. The weather up here in Vancouver is like very, very temperamental. It's like one day it's super hot, one day it's super cold. So, just dealing with it. Um, but yeah, thanks for sharing. And let's get started just talking about like Genshin overall. How does that sound? Does that sound okay?
Sounds great to me.
Okay, so let's talk about Genshin. What about Genshin draws you in the most? Like what made you want to start making lore videos? Like what is it? What is it for you?
Well, I started playing Genshin January of 2021, and the reason I started playing is because I had a bunch of friends who played it, and they're like, "Hey, you should try out this game." And I was like, "Well, I just finished playing Breath of the Wild, so yeah, I'll give it a shot." And I downloaded it one night, and I was like, "Wow, this is really, really fun." And I just kept playing more and more. And to me, starting making lore videos was when I first learned about Guizhong. And then just kept reading into the lore and just all these little things that were there. And then the big final piece that pushed me to doing it was when 2.1 came out and we learned more about Senora and all that. And I was like, I want to make a video about that. And I did. And it's a horrible video, and I won't go back and watch it ever again. But it's a starting point.
Yeah, I mean progress, right? Like especially for when you get into content creation, like you just got to get out there and do it, right? Once you do it,
Yeah.
then you keep doing it, you get better and you get better, and then you look back on your first video and you're like, "Wow, I was terrible." That's a good sign because it tells you that you know that you are better now, and that is great. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, man, the lore is just okay. So speaking of the lore, like obviously this is like a lore based podcast. We love talking about lore here. Um,
Yeah.
do you have a favorite particular story up until this point? Everything in Genshin so far, a favorite story or piece of lore from Genshin that you love sharing with people, and if you and whatever it is, why is that your favorite?
I'm kind of torn between two, actually. I think my number one is still Guizhong
Mm-hmm.
because it's the one that really got me into it. And I was just fascinated by this character who was really close with one of my favorite characters, of course, Zhongli. And I just really love the mystery of it and like how we didn't really know much. And then when we finally got more lore about her in 3.4 and got to see her, it made me so happy.
Mm-hmm.
And
And sad.
yeah, and sad. Yeah, I cried. Um, and then the other one would be Istaroth.
Oof.
Like she's one of my favorite topics, and it's like there's stuff about Hironaka no Miya, and then Mondstadt, and then in Inazuma, and then
Mm-hmm.
Sumeru. She's just everywhere, and like I don't even know why I didn't pick that as a topic, but
Hey, we can
um,
talk about. We'll find some way to talk about it. No problem.
yeah, um, but yeah, those are definitely some of my favorite topics and ones that I definitely like talking about the most,
Nice,
and I
nice.
guess rambling about.
Yeah, I mean we'll definitely have some time to ramble. I mean this is the Silicon Spotlight Ramble podcast. That's what we're here for. Um so yeah, before we like dive into like the lore conversation specifically, I mean you just said Zhongli is like your favorite character. So I usually
Yeah.
ask like who is your favorite playable character and why specifically? So is it Zhongli?
Yeah, it's definitely Zhongli.
You have
I
him
think
C6 R5? I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
not yet, not yet. Um, no, he's my favorite character because when we first met him in the story, he's like this chill guy. He's like having some nice tea, and he's like, "Oh, this guy seems cool." And I don't know exactly when he just became my favorite character, but I think it's because he's like this knowledgeable figure in the world of Genshin, and me as someone who loves the lore, I wanted to be that knowledgeable figure, and so I'm like, "This guy's pretty cool." He's like what I want to be, I guess, in a way, a 6,000-year-old dragon.
Yeah, I just want
So
to be like a 6,000-year-old dragon god who created and invented money. Just no problem.
exactly.
Yeah,
But
big dreams,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, but, like, he just seemed really, really cool to me, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess yeah, that's really he just seemed really cool to me and knowledgeable, and I just really like characters like that,
I,
which
I
also
mean,
explains why I like Welt.
honestly, like I would accept he's just really cool as an answer. Like, so I mean, yeah, because when it comes to like favorite playable character, favorite characters, one thing that I'm like a really huge advocate for is this whole like, um, favorites over meta type thing. And I think this is a
Yeah,
really cool thing that you can do in Genshin that you can't do in a lot of other games, which is like you can really enjoy playing your favorite characters. Like you can build them up however you want. You can build a whole team around them. You can run around the overworld with them, and it's very different with contrast to a game like the very popular recently released Honkai Star Rail, where
yeah,
you kind of have to have certain characters in certain places to do certain things. And in Genshin, you just have more freedom, and I love that about Genshin. So, favorite characters, I mean, I encourage you to use them whenever you want. Like, even if someone tells you, like, oh, maybe they're not like as strong as this character, like, use them anyway. If you like them, that's all
exactly.
that matters. So, you're having fun, that's all that matters to you. So,
Yeah, like, I people know, like, Barbara's a healer and everything. I've
Barbara's
seen
a
people
healer?
deal, like
I thought she
yeah,
was the main
exactly.
DPS.
Yeah, I've literally seen people deal over, like, 200,000 damage with her, and I'm
Yes.
like, "How?" Like, if it's someone's favorite character, they will find a way to make them a main DPS. It's
I
insane.
love it. By the way, speaking of which, like I have a friend who is also a streamer, and um he has a one of his main teams that he goes to all the time is physical damage Zhongli, and it's beautiful. It's just
Wow.
like pa 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 pa, and kills everything, like
Oh my god.
super cool. So I don't yeah, I don't know if he used like Mika or something. I don't remember what his team was, but it was great. So yeah.
Physical damage Zhongli,
Yeah,
wow.
have you heard of cryo damage Zhongli?
I have seen that, yeah, with, like,
Yeah.
the Chang'e infusion, right?
Yeah, and Shunha. So yeah, physical
Mhm.
damage Zhongli is also a thing, and it is very nice to see. Like having physical damage obviously is like, oh, it's pretty great. Um, so yeah, like thanks for sharing about your favorite playable character, but
Yeah,
yeah, well, let's dive into some of these topics. So I know some of the topics that you wanted to talk about today are Fontaine, which is whew, I would love to talk about Fontaine. And Guizhong, of course, like you mentioned, one
oh
of your
yeah,
favorite pieces of lore, along with ancient Liyue in that regard,
yeah.
and the Fatui Harbingers, right?
Mysterious boyos.
Yes, the mysterious boyos and girl with robot and girl with blindfold, and girl who runs orphanage. And so like yeah, and the other thing that you were thinking of mentioning, what was it again? We were talking about like a second ago.
Istaroth, that's what it
Istaroth, yes,
was.
Istaroth. So Istaroth, goddess of time, or
Goddess of Time.
yeah. So that is going to be really interesting to let's see if we can mix that in there. So, great. So Fontaine, right? Everybody is really excited for Fontaine right now. We've got these filler
Oh, yes.
patches holding us over. I'm a huge TCG advocate. I did drop TCG a couple weeks after it came out, but I've been playing it slowly to build up more excitement for this new patch that just came out yesterday. So
Oh, yeah.
like I mean, first of all, before we like dive into Fontaine headfirst, we have a character from Fontaine, Charlotte, joining us in this event that's coming up soon. In all this TCG hype. So, like, you know, just off the cuff, like off the top of your head, like you see Charlotte. What are your immediate thoughts about Fontaine, about her place in the story in this event? Like, just anything that you thought just throw it at me.
Well, when I first saw Charlotte, um, obviously a lot of people are saying she looks like Yanfei, but I kind of saw it, but at the same time, I was like, okay, she looks really cute. I
She
love
looks like
her.
Pom Pom.
She does look like Pom Pom. Yeah, she's like people are saying like a mix between March 7th and Pom Pom, and I was like,
Hmm.
yes, I love that.
Uh-huh.
But she like seems like a really like energetic reporter, and like I'm really excited to meet her in the story, and like and of course she worked for the Steambird. And if we're meeting a character from the Steambird as the first character that we're meeting in Fontaine, it's making me wonder if like the news part of it is going to be important in Fontaine, and like we'll be
Mm.
getting a lot of our news from the Steambird and stuff.
Is Mona gonna show up?
Yeah, it's like oh, I'd love if Mona showed up because oh, that'd be so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, my favorite bit about Charlotte, which I noticed a bit after the special program, is her camera's like a little man's. It has like a little mustache and everything.
Yeah.
It's
Little
adorable. The little hat.
dapper camera.
Yeah, dapper little dude.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, so kind of a surprise, right? Like that Charlotte shows up out of nowhere, isn't even
Yeah.
playable, and then like is uh with us with a TCG event. So many things like going on there. My first immediate thought seeing this Charlotte situation kind of made me it reminded me of Kazuha. So I think you weren't playing yet back then. Is that correct? Like when did you start playing Genshin? Day 1?
No, I started back in 1.2,
Oh, 1.2.
like
Okay, so you
yeah,
you,
the
yeah, you
tail end of it.
so you were there. So before Inazuma, right? Um
Yeah,
like they introduced Kazuha as part of the Golden Apple Archipelago thing event, and so he was our first playable Inazuma character, and he kind of gave us a sort of glimpse into like Inazuma's ideals a little bit,
yeah,
but you know we didn't get to go there yet, and we only got to interact with him so much. So I think Charlotte, to me, like we didn't get someone like that for Sumeru, and
yeah,
so I kind of feel like Charlotte is that for us right now. Like if she's featured more prominently in the next patch, and then maybe is released as a playable character, we may get another like sneak peek glimpse at Fontaine.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll see, right? Like who knows? So yeah, so that is just one thing that reminded me. So Fontaine, in general, you know, what are you excited about? What are your thoughts like just about Fontaine right now?
I could talk about so much about what I'm excited about.
Well, you have two
Like,
hours.
I do Well, I think the thing I'm most excited about is to finally learn more about the Hydra Archon Focalor because she just seems like such a unique Archon, I guess would be the word, because all the Archons we've met so far, although they've sometimes had ideals that are just, not really the best, like Ryan, like, hey, I'm gonna steal all your visions. They've been level-headed. They've just been, you know, what's
Venti's
the word
level
I'm
headed.
yeah. I mean, Venti's a bit chaotic, but he's
Right.
more or less, you know, stable, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
he's pretty predictable. I mean, in a lot of cases, like he's gonna be that crazy guy. You know what I mean? Like he's predictable in being unpredictable, but also being
yeah,
happy and all this stuff. So
yeah.
okay,
But from what we know about Focalor, both from Nihida and the quote we were given when Nihida is released, there's the quote from Nouvelette on Facebook and Twitter and wherever it was about how Focalor is kind of more unhinged in a way and how she's prone to hysterics, which is really interesting because the archons we've seen so far are usually more calm and collected. Of course, Venti being the chaotic friend,
right,
but it seems like Focalor will be more like a child who just acts out sometimes. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out in the story and like see if that personality leads to more twists and turns in the story that could have been avoided if not for her being outbursty, I guess. Is that a
right.
word? That's a word now.
I mean, it is now. You just made it.
All words are made up.
Yeah, and I know that like was it so? You know, we have Zhongli who like supposedly is okay. A lot of he walks around everybody like in the nation, but people don't really know that it's him.
Yeah.
Venti, nobody knows it's him too. Same deal. Like he's active, but he's not active as an Archon. He's kind of
Yeah.
hidden in plain sight. Um, and A has only recently, obviously, we haven't had much building upon Inazuma's situation after the Archon quest and after um, A's story quest. Like we see a little bit of like let's walk around and have some dangos or whatever. There's the milk thing that she really likes. Um,
Jungle Milk.
yeah, dango milk. And so like we we see that's like one of the first times that we saw an Archon working as an Archon in like out and about in the town, right? In their nation respectively. And Nahida came next. Like Nahida was well known and then she gets released and now she's like kind of building up her reputation and she's kind of just around, you know what I mean? Like just doing stuff.
Yeah.
And so
You,
now
you,
I'm
you
curious
find her
because
walking around.
right? And Focalors and Focalors is like supposed to be present at trials. Is that my am I understanding is correct? Like so she's there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think she's present. It was said like she's present at most trials and usually doesn't interfere, but she has the right to.
right? So that itself is going to be like is one thing I'm really looking forward to about her because seeing them kind of enforce their ideals in person in front of everybody, I think is a really interesting concept that we haven't really been exposed to as much when it comes to like how do the archons lead their nations,
Yeah.
and so I'm really excited about that too. Um,
It's gonna be really, really cool.
so you remember at the end of the 3.7 live stream that little clip we saw?
Yeah, like the 15 seconds of underwater.
Yeah, 15 seconds. I feel like it wasn't even that long. But like it was like just swimming, right? So what do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first it gets me excited because underwater exploration.
Mm-hmm.
Second, it makes me scared because underwater exploration.
Same.
Because um, like I'm already dreading how many hydroculi we're gonna have to collect because there's the trend of it goes up and up and up every region,
Right.
and Sumeru's total I think was 271, so we're probably gonna have over 300 something.
Tamara's
Uh,
gigantic. Like
yeah,
it's
and
just uh,
Fontaine's gonna be even bigger. Oh yay!
woo. I mean, I'm here for it. Like, if they release it slowly over time in patches the way they did with Sumeru, like I'm here
Yeah,
for it. Um
yeah. It's like
mhm.
the only other thing I have about underwater exploration is I'm hoping if they do combat, it's not the combat that's the only thing I'm like confused about. Is there going to be underwater combat and how's it going to work? Because we have a bunch of different characters with different elements. Some of them won't work underwater. So I'm thinking if we do combat, we only saw the traveler swimming. So what if it's like fishing when like you activate the fishing point, it just switches to the traveler holding the fishing rod and only the
Yeah.
traveler fishes? What if it's going to be
Yeah.
like that?
Well, while I see that that's a very likely thing to happen, I would definitely love for us to be able to use the characters we have more. Like I would love to be able
Yeah,
to fish with whatever character I have that's not the traveler. I would love to be
yeah.
able to swim with not the traveler, but if they decide to take that route, I wouldn't be surprised. One thing someone told me in my community was, what if they just upgrade the boat into a submarine?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Wouldn't that be cool? Another thing was, so I saw this clip of swimming, and I was like, nothing about the actual background that they're showing me says Fontaine to me. And summer is coming up soon. So I think that they might just introduce like another sort of Golden Apple Archipelago event where they kind of did the same thing that they did with the boat in 1.1 or 1.2, and they give us the boat in what they did was they gave us the boat, and then once
Yeah,
Inazuma came out, we were able to use the boat, right? So
yeah.
I think that we're gonna get an area where we can swim and learn about swimming, and then we will go to Fontaine. So maybe this was just a clip of like that new area that's like temporary. Is my thought, like
That's
personal thoughts.
interesting.
So I think they're gonna introduce swimming before they just like give it to us. And what do you think? I personally don't think they're gonna let us swim anywhere retroactively. I think we're gonna have to only swim in new areas.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about it being a limited event because
Mm-hmm.
I was like looking at the clip, like I was like looking for little details. And at one part, I noticed there's like one of those echoing conches or something that looked like it in the background,
Oh,
like they have in the Golden Apple Archipelago.
there you go. They just love the Golden Apple Archipelago, man. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like why they even bring it back a second time? It could have been a totally different place, but you know, we'll see.
And maybe it's not the same place, but maybe it's like also away from Teyvat, like in the
Yeah.
Dark Sea or something.
Yep. Yep.
And maybe that's just a common thing. Maybe they just have conches that talk to you.
Or maybe they will just actually open up that area above Inazuma to the left. That's just like a bunch of ocean. Like
Let us go back.
yeah, or just give us like a permanent. I don't know. I'm not like a huge fan of like the limited spaces. Like I get
Yeah.
it, but like man, like it's nice to have more to explore, and more to do and open up the world. And there's still so much. It kind of blows my mind how big the map is, and
Oh yeah.
like I can't even imagine. First of all, this game's gonna take up hundreds of gigabytes in the future.
Glad
Second
I
of
got the new
all,
test drive.
right?
SSD, that's what it's called.
Yeah, we need one of those, and I mean, I usually play on PS5, but I mean, I'm scared for mobile players with very limited space.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the fact that the map is so big and that they are still finding ways to give us extra things outside the map, like even Enkanomiya, and
Oh yeah.
um the wait, there's another place, right?
The underground
The
mines.
chasm. Yes, the chasm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like those aren't even part of the world map. Like just this game is gonna be gigantic. Like
It's gonna be huge.
right, it's gonna be huge. And so really really curious to see how they like where the desert ends and how that kind of ties into like Natlan and all that area.
Yeah.
And where do you think Fontaine's gonna be on the map?
I'm thinking, like, based on the hints we've gotten in game, like Zhongli told us Chowing Village is the gateway to Fontaine. It's northwest Liyue, and then there's the guy we met in the new area. I think it was Julian. He's
Mm,
like, oh yeah, I traveled through from Fontaine through Chenyu Vale to here, the deserts of Sumeru.
mm,
So pretty sure it's going to be north of Sumeru,
mm.
and that we'll get Chaoying Village before that and Chenyu Vale before that, so we can travel into Fontaine, or maybe even at the same time.
Ooh. Yeah, so I mean, I'm really, really hyped for that. Just seeing like how many different ways we can get to Sumeru from the places. I mean, from to get to Fontaine from the places we already know.
Yeah.
And being able to see it. Like I love. I don't know if you do this, but me and my me and my co-host for my podcast, sometimes we just talk about going to a place. Like if there's like a big structure, like the Sumeru tree, right, or this like
Yeah.
last 3.6, like the giant the I forgot the name already, but the hole in the sky that turned into a tree, Um
Yeah.
trying to see how far away we can see that. Like trying to
I
like connect the
I
map.
do that too.
Yeah, yeah. So like I found that I could see that all the way from all the way from Dragon Spine. I could
Oh
see
my
that
god.
giant tree. And I heard that like someone from someone who like glitched out during like the Apep cutscene in Nihida's story was able to see the giant Apep dragon
Oh,
from like
really?
Liyue. Yeah, like all
Oh,
the way in
that's
the corner of
crazy.
Liyue. Like it's just gigantic. Oh
Imagine
man.
if you're just like an actual just regular person during that cutscene in the UA and just look over and you see this giant dragon.
uh, yeah, they're like, yeah, that checks out. Just walk, keep walking. Oh my gosh. So yeah, the Apaosha, yeah, is the name of the big tree.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you know we'll go to Fontaine from there. So now thinking about Fontaine and the other things about Fontaine specifically culturally, about some of the characters. I know we talked about the Archon, and we talked
Yeah.
about swimming. So like, what else? What else do you think Fontaine is gonna be like? What is Fontaine like in your head? Let's see if you're how close you are, how close we are when it actually comes out officially. So, what are some other thoughts you have about the nature of Fontaine itself?
I don't know why, but the first thing I thought of was just baguettes. So I hope they have baguettes. We can get baguettes in Fontaine.
There are definitely baguettes.
Oui, oui. But, like, I'm really hoping for not just French inspiration, but inspiration from British Isles and Celtic inspirations as well, kinda, like, meld them together, like
mm,
how Sumeru was kind of a melting pot.
yeah,
Um, I want Fontaine hopefully to be sort of a melting pot of up there too, maybe even some other European countries.
yeah. It would be nice if it
So
wasn't decidedly French. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
like 'Cause right now we do have a lot of French inspirations, but
Mm.
I have a strong feeling we're also gonna get, like, some British inspirations.
Italian. I think there was some Italian inspiration already.
Oh,
Between
really?
some NPCs. I don't remember for sure. Like I just thought someone was speculating about that based on something that someone said, but like character
Huh.
names or something. You know what I mean? How that tells a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't remember for sure, but it would be cool if it was a mix of that area of Europe for sure,
If it's like a mix of Italy, it has some Italy in there.
right?
Oh, someone just said it in chat,
Yeah,
Venice. Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be really, really
My
cool.
wife thinks that Fontaine's gonna look like Venice.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
I obviously like at least part of it, right? Because obviously if it's French, it's not gonna look like Venice, um,
Yeah.
but they could be parts of it. What else do you think, or
Well,
what would you
speaking
love to see? You know?
well, speaking of Venice there, my one of my earliest thoughts I had about it was, going back to Chowing Village as the gateway to Fontaine and Chen Vale and all that.
Mm-hmm.
There's in the Echoes of an Offering artifact set, which is one of my favorites lore-wise, there's mention of a place called Yilong Port, and in a video a while ago, I threw out the idea that Yilong Port would be on the Liyue side, and then there'd be another port on the Fontaine side,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that port could be like the Venice area. I think that'd be really, really cool. So you go up to Chaoying Village, you go to Yilong Port, and you look out, and you just see this Venice city, and you get this view of maybe the Fontaine city in the distance too. It'd be just like a really, really cool shot, I think.
Oh my god, I'm like, I'm just imagining this is making me so excited for like, it's like really annoying because it's not even sure it's gonna be a thing. Like you're just like
Yeah.
speculating, but I'm like, oh my god, yeah, that would be amazing. Like, but yeah, so okay, yeah, that's cool. I didn't know about that Yilong port. That's cool. Um,
Yeah, I think it's only mentioned once, and then it's
mm,
talked about nowhere else.
hey, I mean, you know how Hoyoverse is at this point. Like they mention it
True.
once, that's it's significant. You know. Um, so I know you had a video that you released about a month ago called Focalors, Celestia, and Kyneria.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about like your that connection? Like I'm obviously you have the video, so if anybody wants to watch the whole video, they can go watch it. But can you give us like the spark notes, the footnotes version of like what like what is this theory about? Like what do you like? You know what about it is appealing to you, and like why like where did you get it from?
Well, I'm trying to refresh my brain on it now. Um, I had like a thought one day about what if Focalor was from Conria, which is unlikely because she's an Archon, but I like talking about random, fun, crazy ideas. So I was like, yeah, I'll make a video on this.
Yeah, crackpot
And
theories.
yeah, like part of the theory, the Celestia part of it was just talking about like the judgment part and how Celestia would be involved in it. But the part I really liked was the Conria part. And originally I thought it may have something to do with Deicide and her killing the previous Hydro Archon, but
Mm,
3.6 kind of disproved that.
mm,
But to me, the reason I thought out of any Archon, the Hydro Archon could be from Conria is because water has been described as this primordial element. And like even with the Bathismal Bishops and Unconomia, water was their element.
mm,
And I think I think there may have been some ties to water with Conria. I can't remember that clearly, but I thought about like if the Hydro Archon came from Conria, obviously Hydro colors a lighter blue, and so oh no, what about her pupils? Well, the Gnosis could just like shift the shape a bit, I guess, the power of the
mm,
Gnosis. But she would also still have that blue color scheme in her eyes, and it would kind of just be like hiding in plain sight, which is interesting for a god of justice hiding from the law of the land. I
mm.
just think it'd be like a really cool idea to have this, I guess, sinner in the eyes of Celestia, a Conrian, being an Archon who's basically under their jurisdiction.
Right, and this would have happened. They would have been an Archon before the Cataclysm, right?
Yeah, or they would have known the previous Hydro Archon before the
Right.
Cataclysm and been working their way in. Like maybe they were like a spy of Conria working their way in.
So interesting. And then Kaya.
And then
um,
Kaya, oh yeah.
but yeah, I love your like, I love your true lorist. behavior of like I had this thought once. I made a video on it. It's out of my brain now. I just
Yep.
had to get it out. I gotta watch the video to refresh myself on it because it was so dang complicated. But yeah, obviously we know more now about the Pari and their relationship to the Hydro Archon and or the previous Hydro Archon and the
Yeah.
Oceanids, right? So can you tell us a little bit about that? Do you have anything prepared off the top of your head, like just like about the story of how the Pari may be represented in the future, in regards to the Oceanids and the previous Archon lore?
Well, I did just make a video on the entire lore of the Harvest Takum, so
Oh, you did.
I'm very fresh on this.
Okay,
Um,
let's go.
oh yeah, but like I think the Pari, while they might not be like essential to the plot of Fontaine, I think that we will go back to Tunigi Hollow at some point. We will go back to the Harvest Takum with Fossilorb either in the Archon quest or in her story quest,
Mhm.
so that she can learn from the Pari about the history of her previous or of her predecessor and everything that happened during the Cataclysm. Because if she isn't from Conria, maybe she was. I still think she is from Conria or she is from Fontaine and she was just really inexperienced and kind of just pushed into that position of power after her predecessor died. So I want to see her kind of go back and learn about her predecessor, what she did, the sacrifice she made with the Amrita and everything like that,
Mhm.
to kind of like be like, whoa, I need to be more mature, I guess, and kind of like help push her along that path of getting back into it. And I think the power would be a big part of that because they look like mini Oceanids. So I think
Right?
having the Pari as part of the main story would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean that world quest, first of all, was so long.
Yes.
It really needed to be voiced, much like Golden Slumber's quest. Um,
Yeah.
but but yeah, I think that it was so my kind of, it wasn't shock, I would say, but it was kind of like surprise that like the Pari exist. Like what the heck?
Yeah.
Like we got 3.6 and we're like, who are you? Like what are you? What are you? Like why do you look like a little fish? But they're actually birds. And so like this whole relationship to the Oceanids and the bird, a Simurg, or and all this stuff, like, so I think it really is setting us up for some aspect of the Fontaine lore, and maybe there's a Fontaine world quest that plays off of this party quest, and
Yeah.
and I think that would be a really interesting thing to look forward to, because I was recently, like, after I finished that quest, I asked my community, I was like, what do you guys think the party, like, when are they gonna show up again? Like, what are we gonna do? So like they have to show up in Sumeru, right? I mean, in Fontaine, right?
Yeah.
Because like my brain still defaults to newest area of Genshin is Sumeru. Like that's still yeah, they have to be going to Fontaine because like they're so intertwined with the history of Fontaine. And yeah, and they just came out of nowhere. They just like it made me think like we really have no idea where the lore is going sometimes, because
Yeah.
they just show
Funny.
us something that's been around forever. So yeah, that was pretty interesting in itself.
Yeah. I'm really hoping like we actually get some voiced quests with them because
Yes, please.
there's so many words. It's like, how do we pronounce these? What does this all mean?
I mean, I would love if they just retroactively went in and added voice acting to like all these quests,
It'd be
because
so cool.
I would replay the game again, like just to do that. um, but yeah. So there's you know a lot of story on those in those quests, and I think it was really cool that they kind of came out of nowhere. Like I mentioned this to you earlier. I'm not like, I'm kind of ashamed to admit it, but I haven't finished the R&R quest. I'm almost done with it. It's really, I know about the lore, so obviously, like, it's whatever. But like, just physically doing the quest, I only started really putting time into it yesterday, and so like these quests, that kind of come out of nowhere, that are so important to the world building of the story. It's really interesting that they don't include these in the main Archon quest, and yet
Yeah.
they're so important for understanding how Teyvat works, that I'm really curious to see what kind of stuff we get in Fontaine. So
Yeah.
what about Fontaine culturally? What about like the more things like I know we talked about the kind of city it is, but what about like the kind of people that you think we'll meet, or like the kind of things that you think we would experience, or that you want to see, just off of your understanding of what it might be like.
Well, I need to go back and think about my boy Lieben from the Marvelous Merchandise
Yeah,
Sins.
one of my favorite
Uh,
cards.
yes, my boy. Um, I remember there was one event he talked about. Fontaine has this like uh dark atmosphere over it or something like that, and that judgment was soon to come, and that's what the people were saying, that judgment was soon to come. So I think it'd be interesting if when we get to Fontaine, the people are kind of like nervous about something going on. They feel apprehensive about something,
Mm-hmm.
um, whether it's related to the story or something. But I think the people, like outside of that, outside of the nervousness for whatever's going to go on the Archon quest, I think um, they're going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? More pretentious than other regions. They're going to be like somewhat like, oh, we're really fancy and all that. We have great technology. I feel like some of them might be like that because they all dress fancy and they have all this technology, and yeah, they're engineers.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they might be a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they might present themselves as above other people more.
Mm.
At least some of them will, especially like the engineers and the people who dress more fancy. And the people of Fontaine in general will just be like, "Oh yeah, we're cool. We're a fancy region. We have nice stuff and everything."
Right. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that plays into like some of the story itself. Like, are we gonna have to deal? Because first of all, we get arrested in every country,
Yeah.
or something like that. Second of all, we're gonna have to deal with some big problem that's happening, and
Yeah.
it makes me think like that. With this theory of yours about like the kind of uppityness of the Fontaine people because of their accomplishments, how much that comes into play. Like, are we going to be in a war of like the upper class versus like the lower class, or like maybe the inventors are going on strike because you know what I mean, because they don't get paid enough. Like, this is like a whole. I mean, because the reflection on real world stuff happening like might be relevant in some way to the writing of the game, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that we need to you know w- I think we're gonna get to Fontaine, and once we see this problem, we're gonna immediately know about how we feel about this, right? Like how
Yeah.
what side we're standing on. Usually, I'm really curious to see if the morals of what we're doing are gonna be more gray, because typically we've had pretty straightforward like good guy bad guy stuff most of the time. So I'm really curious to see how we're gonna fight this, and if judgment and equality, is like the
Yeah.
main the main theme kind of story we'll see. I mean, obviously, Sumeru blew our minds with its Archon
Yeah.
quest. Like,
Oh, that was crazy.
oh, Genshin can do this. Let's go. Like, like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was amazing.
Yeah, like I talked about I have a whole mini series about Fontaine and my speculations on it. And I think in my Hexenzirkel and Harbingers video on them, I I talked about how it's going to be hard for us to choose sides in Fontaine, and how the Archon isn't going to be as forgivable as
Mm-hmm.
the other Archons, and how we'll have to choose a side. Like if the Hexenzirkel witches go on trial, what are we going to do then? Because we know a lot of Hexenzirkel, like we have Klee, Mona, Scarlet, Alice,
Mm-hmm.
Albedo, Rhindaughter. There's a lot of characters we know on that side, but then there's also the Archon side of it. And like,
Yeah.
who do we side with?
Yeah. That's so funny that you mentioned like because like that you mentioned the Archons being like unforgivable, because like like how big of an antagonist Raiden was made out to be at the beginning.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
she's like the most oppressive ruler and blah blah blah. And it's like how they solved that? They're like, oh, actually, she was a robot on autopilot. like what? So really curious to see like how they're gonna, because obviously the Archon's gonna be playable, right? So
oh yeah,
if this happens, if this actually happens, and we get an Archon who's like, we don't like this Archon, like because they're so in their ways or what have you, I'm really curious to see how they will humanize them or they will empathize them so that we want to play as them. So that we'll be okay with them or that it would make sense for them to be on our team with us. Um, even like I know we're gonna talk about Harbingers later, but like Tartaglia,
Yeah.
like you know what I mean? Like he's he's been playable so early, and he's like in the main antagonistic group of bad guys as far as we know for the Archon quest. And so the fact that he's even fighting with us, and then Scaramouche, like you know, like these people,
Yeah.
we're like we're supposed to kind of hate them in a way. Um, obviously, Child, they right at the beginning they're like, oh, he's actually like a good guy. He's just doing things because he has his own reasons or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's the whole and then Scaramouche, they're just like, let's reset his character so that he'll become somewhat more likable, and then we'll just put him back. Like, I'm really really curious to see what they can do with this, like making her likable. But obviously, we don't know the story yet, so a lot of
Yeah.
speculation. So you have a whole mini series on Fontaine speculation specifically.
Oh yeah. I've been doing a bunch of theories. I've Hexenzirkel, Fatui Harbingers, previous Hydro Archon, and then current Hydro Archon and Celestian Conway and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm planning on doing ones about locations and stuff, then the characters we know of,
Mm-hmm.
and then as 3.8 drops, because that's probably going to be the last patch before Fontaine, I'm going to do this big, huge Fontaine mega video with all my thoughts, and it's probably going to be incredibly long. But
Looking forward to it.
yeah, I'm really, really, really excited for Fontaine.
Same. And I feel like I'm gonna be honest. I feel like the game has been out as long as it's been out. I feel like I've spent over half of the entirety of my Genshin experience in Sumeru. I
I
just
know,
I
it's
it's
crazy.
weird. It's like they introduced Dendro as the new element, and it literally became a different game after that. And
Yeah,
and the story too just took off and became its own thing, and like it kind of sticks with you, like the story.
yeah,
I know someone was saying in the chat like another negative reason. I don't want another negative region like this, like Inazuma, and like I feel
yeah,
that like like we were Inazuma's depressing. Like Inazuma as a place, as Japan culture, everything, love it. I lived there 4 years. I speak Japanese. Like I love Japanese culture,
yeah.
and they did a good job representing it in certain ways, maybe even almost too good of a job in some aspects. But the fact that like the whole place is purple, the whole place constantly tries to kill you, you're a war criminal.
Yeah.
And then even after that, it's just like we don't get the positivity part of it much after. Like we did some fun events and things, but like story wise, the best thing we had was like Raiden's story. And so now we have Yoimiya's story, which I have not done yet, so I'm kind of curious to see how that works out. But like I'm also hoping that Fontaine is like a like not overtly negative experience, but yeah, we'll see. How did you feel about that, like Inazuma and like coming in after Inazuma to Sumeru?
Um, well, it definitely felt like stepping into the sun,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of both the nation itself and the story.
Right.
It felt like a lot brighter, even though there were dark undertones with everything with the Torre and Scaramouche and
Right.
Vegeta just being locked up for 500 years.
Yep. Yep.
But despite all of those dark undertones, it still felt bright and lively and hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
While Inazuma, you're over there and it's just like, oh, our god's trying to kill us. Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. She kind of sliced one of our islands in half or whatever. It's no problem.
yeah,
Also, she
she just
killed
sliced her
Kazuha's
island.
best friend. What the like like oh man,
You guys are just gonna be like, oh, all right with that, I guess. All right.
right? GG reset. Okay. So man. Okay. So great. So we're talking about Fontaine. There's so much stuff. I was thinking it would be a really cool idea because you just said you have so many theories about Fontaine. You're super excited about Fontaine. I think it would be really cool if you made a bingo card or like a checklist, like to
Bingo.
see all of your theories, which ones actually pan out.
Oh, that'd be a fun
You
idea.
know what I mean? Like because if you have just a ton of like ridiculous theories or like very unlikely but yet works with some of the information we have, like it would be so interesting to see how many of those you get right. You know what I mean?
Sounds like a
Um,
good idea.
yeah, yeah, do it, use it. I mean, like it's just sounds like something fun that I would be personally curious about because I love thinking about how because obviously speculation is one of the most fun things about this kind of game. Like being at the
Oh
forefront
yeah.
of this game, the lore is not all there. It could change at any time. They could take a different direction, like we've already mentioned multiple times, and it's a really fun prospect to see. Like how right was I, or how wrong was
Yeah.
I?
How wrong was I?
I
I look
couldn't
back
have
at
been
some of my
more
old
wrong.
theories. Look
Yeah.
back at some of my old theories. I was like, how the heck did I think that?
But yeah, like oh man, hindsight's 2020. So yeah,
I mean,
anything else?
yeah, I was just thinking. I got like for Sumeru, I got a few things right. I got Dotori's involvement right,
Nice.
um, and a few other things. So who knows? Maybe I'll do the same for Fontaine.
Dude, maybe you're right. Maybe Focalors is Kainrian.
That one's definitely my most out there one, but I'm hoping.
I mean, more Kainria representation, right? I just think would be so interesting.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah,
the Caribea quest was a kind of dud when it came to like Kaya's involvement in the story.
yeah,
Obviously the story itself was very important, but like I would love to see more like Kaya jumps in.
yeah. Because they hyped Kai up. It was like, oh, we're gonna meet Kai and Sumeru. And it's like, hey, all
Yeah.
right, bye.
Oh, bye. Death in the afternoon. Peace. uh, and then what's it called? I also saw something about people talking about it would be cool if Yanfei was the one that like guides you through
Yeah.
Fontaine. But I think Mona could also easily be someone who does that. Or Lieben could just show up and have an actual voice actor and just do it for us.
Dude,
Um,
Lieben deserves a voice actor at this point.
I know, right? He's basically a playable character. Um,
Oh, that'd be so cool. We get to the end game. We're about to be defeated, and then Lieben steps in and saves us.
oh my
And he's
god.
he's the new playable character.
Oh my god! Imagine the cutscene like where like Raiden like does the sword and like Kazuha jumps in and saves you, but it's like it's just Lieben instead.
Oh, that's amazing. I
Oh my
want that
god!
so bad now.
Can you imagine? He like stops her Muso no Hitotachi with a like with the little box. Oh my
Oh
god!
my god.
Yeah, we need more memes, man.
We need
Um,
more memes.
so
Make it real.
any last thoughts about Fontaine that you want to just get out there and share before we like move on to talking about the about Liyue?
Um, I don't think I have any right now. I might have more later at the end, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
no,
Probably,
if they
probably
come
when we
up,
talk about the Harbingers.
yeah. When we talk about the harbingers, obviously feel free to bring it up. So, what about let's talk about ancient Liyue and Guizhong and
Yeah.
so what really what really stands out to you from like what we learned during the Lantern Rite Festival or just about Guizhong and ancient Liyue in general? Like, what is one huge thing that you're like, man, this is really important?
Well, the one thing that stands out to me is when we see in the cutscene, when Guizhong is killed in that battle,
Mm-hmm.
um, Cloud Retainer says that she and Madame Ping weren't there when she passed away, and all the Adepti gathered after. It seems all the Adepti gathered after, and like only Zhongli was there, like Memory of Dust says. So, what exactly happened before they got there? Because we don't have that perspective of what happened in the battle.
Mm-hmm.
We only have that they got there. Oh no, she's dead. I want to know what happened
So only
actually in the battle.
Zhong Li knows, right?
Yeah, I don't know if the Yaksha were there in time either. I think they came after to seal it. Maybe they were there, but I just want to know exactly what happened, like how she was killed
Mm-hmm.
and all that, because I feel like we're missing a huge piece of that lore right there.
And if she was killed, right?
Yeah,
Or if
exactly that
something
too.
wasn't done with her body, right?
Yeah, because like what exactly happened? Because it was there. Like her body technically was there. It was like in a
Mm-hmm.
dusty form. Um, so I don't know exactly. Like, does Zhang Li know something we don't? Are we gonna go ask him about it one day? I want to know more.
I know, right? I don't want to like jump into the I don't jump into the harbingers early yet, but like the
Yeah.
what theory I'm talking about?
I think I do.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about that later. Well, I mean, okay, I'll just talk about because we're talking about Guizhong, but like the
Yeah.
uncanny resemblance that Guizhong has to a harbinger.
All right, to Piero. No, I'm kidding. Sandier.
Yes, she looks just like Pierre. Yeah. But like the thing is, right? Knowing Hoyo also, they do like to reuse character models and stuff, so it's not like a huge,
Yeah.
huge thing. But I mean, it's an interesting theory to entertain. Is that like they did something with this Adeptus to bring them to their side, or like clone them, or did something or something. You never know with the Fatui. So
Yeah.
yeah, like
I did actually have some thoughts about that part.
ooh,
Um, well, we see in that the same cutscene with Gui Zhang that she had some Conrian technology. Like she had like like the yellow gems that Conry uses.
mm,
Those those were in her workshop there.
mm,
You could see those. So if she knows about that, then she may have known about other technology from Conry. And obviously she had the ruin guards and stuff in her realm of clouds too.
right,
So if she knew about that Conry technology, who's to say that she didn't know about puppets, which were also Conry technology, and that she made puppets of herself that after she died, quote unquote, her essence went into one of those puppets and she lived on sort of in hiding.
right. So,
Well,
but hey, like seems like a really possible theory at this point, honestly.
yeah. And I mean, Sandrone's called the marionette. So, I mean, kind of works
mhm.
and she has countering technology, being
Mhm.
very similar looking.
Mhm.
Who knows?
Yeah, I love this theory. but but yeah, so it is because like I don't know, man, Guizhong so cool. Her story is so important to
Yeah.
ancient Liyue and like all of those adeptus and their relationship to each other. And and then we get Cloud Retainer story, and it's like, oh my god, I can't believe that was a limited event. First of
I
all,
know.
that's the part that bothers me the most. Is like that was a freaking limited event. The Lantern Rite Festival story, was so important to ancient Liyue's history and those important figures. That's crazy. So
It had
what
so
else?
many
What else? What anything else? Like you got what do you got? About Guizhong, about maybe relationship to Cloud Retainer, about hopes for the future, for what you want to see about ancient Liyue
well,
or Guizhong. Like what do you got?
well, I definitely want to see us talk to Zhang Li about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because while he does have that contract, so he can't talk about the cataclysm, he doesn't, as far as we know, doesn't have anything to say that he can't talk about those events from 3,700 years ago and before. So I want to learn. I want us to like somehow uncover something about ancient Liu or Guizhong, and us go to Zhongli being like, "Hey man, what the heck?" Um, and like learn some more about it from him, who was with Guizhong a lot of the time, and was obviously there, was the forefront of most of ancient Liyue's history. So
Mm-hmm.
he knows a lot and he just hasn't told us. And I want to know.
What if? What if he like okay, just like playing on this idea of like the harbingers got a hold
Yeah,
of Guizhong, right? And like did
yeah.
something to her. What if Zhongli's contract involved him being emotional and wanting to save Guizhong and recognizing that the Saritsa had the technology to do that, and he made a deal with them to keep her alive in some capacity because he couldn't bear to lose?
Hmm, that'd be interesting.
Because we know nothing about the details of his contract, and we know how much he cared about him and her and Cloud Retainer.
Oh yeah, because yeah, you're right. We do know nothing about it. So,
I,
that's really
yeah,
interesting.
just like a random thought I had just now, like, yo, like, what if a deal was made? Like, cause Zhong Li is so calculated in his decisions, and I
Yeah,
mean, he's pretty like, straightforward about a lot of things. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have emotions or doesn't slip up. And
oh yeah,
this could be one of those things where he slipped up or he did something that he thought was right in the moment that he maybe regrets or maybe he doesn't and maybe just doesn't want to talk about it because he doesn't feel it's in anyone's best interest to know this information.
yeah. Because we know he gave up his gnosis to the Fatui, but he's like, we're like, what could be worth that? And he's like, I can't tell you that.
Yeah,
You have to
but
figure
think
it out
think about it.
yourself.
Like if from what we know, what could be worth it? Like, and that event makes me think that could be worth it.
Yeah,
Being in that
there's a lot
battlefield,
of
seeing
stuff.
his friend dying in front of him, maybe the she was already dead was a lie, and maybe they, um, it's hard to take a lot of this stuff at face value, especially when we know there are ulterior motives at play from everything that happened a long time ago in the game's
Yeah,
lore. So, and I love that this theory just stems from like the fact that they look so similar to each other, but
yeah,
but also is like you know like that kind of thing.
yeah.
So
And then there's like the whole thing with Natlon with incandescent node of resurrection. Is resurrection going to be a big deal there? Are we going to learn more about how that works? Are we going to see Guizhong Senora
right.
again? Like, what's going to happen there?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. Like if they were able to do all that they did with Scaramouche, I
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised that they come up with some mechanic like that, especially if it involves resurrecting two major characters. But I don't know. We'll see. Like one's a bad guy technically, a misunderstood, uh, misunderstood witch slash not witch, and yeah, I would
who
love to
just
see it.
wanted who just wanted to be with her lover. That sounds similar to Guizhong a bit.
Yeah, right.
Interesting.
Okay, well, now I want to see something like that. Okay. So yeah, before we go into break in a couple minutes, is there anything else you wanted to mention about Ancient Liyue that you want to like kind of start talking about or mention?
There is one thing. Um it's about just mainly about Zhongli.
Mm.
And we know he's 6,000 years old. So was he around for the Moon Sister disaster and the solar chariot falling out of the sky and all that?
Mm.
Like where does the time frame place him there? Does he know about that? This is just a lot of like, does Zhongli know about all this stuff? And when are we going to question him about it? Um,
Mhm.
but it'd be interesting because there's a theory some people have wondered, like, because in the lore it says um, something like the god of Geo descended onto the world, and people are wondering if he's a descender or if he's like he's more powerful than he knows. Like he's not just an archon; he's like a shade or close closer to the primordial one than we think.
Oh,
So it's like, is
interesting.
he actually 6,000 years old, or is his time as the Lord of Geo only been for 6,000 years, and he's just far older than he
Right.
lets us believe?
I mean, it's kind of similar to Venti originally being a what like a wind sprite or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, like there is like real like we really don't have a real concept of like how I mean we have an idea but like it's kind of random how like things turn into other things like like
yeah,
but they just explain like yeah this was actually this a long time ago but now it's this or like Sealies or people or like like
yeah.
the goddess of uh the Moon Sisters the Moon Sisters and Deshret and that story with
Oh yeah,
like the whole King Deshret story with Lillipar and everything involving that nation and Gurbad was like so like it was kind of hard to wrap your head around if you're not like if you don't like don't understand conceptually what they're talking about when they talk about um otherworldly beings and like creatures made of light and like all these things like so I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case that Zhongli was actually a much stronger being that came down.
yeah. He's just like, shh, you don't know anything.
Yeah, but, I mean we don't, and like Zhongli's so just so he's so quiet. By the way, what language do you play? Um, what language do you play the game's voices in? In English?
In English, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. I had an interesting conversation about Zhongli's voice the other day, yesterday on stream, which was like in Chinese, Zhongli is so quiet spoken and like very,
Huh.
very like uh chill. Like he's very like I've been around forever. I talk at my own pace, But in English and Japanese and I assume Korean, I don't really know Korean, but he has like a very commanding presence. Like
Yeah.
like I know everything, and so like he has this sort of young-ish confidence to him compared to the Chinese voice. Like one of my followers is like a Chinese speaker who like plays the game in Chinese, and she
Yeah.
was telling me that, and I was like, huh, that's really interesting. Like he does seem like more commanding in English and Japanese, but in Chinese, I listen to some of his voices, and he's like very like soft spoken and very not like old man wise knowledgeable kind of spoken. But I don't know, just something I thought I'd bring up because I really love the voice acting aspect of the game.
Yeah,
So,
voice acting is so cool.
hmm so okay, so great. Man, Zhongli, Ancient Liyue, so much Fontaine. I love it. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing your Fontaine speculation series continue.
Yes.
And for anyone that is listening, if you haven't already checked it out, we've posted the link to Silicon socials in the chat. So Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. So if you
Yeah.
haven't already, go follow, support, and we will be taking a 5-minute break starting now. So go get some water, go stretch, and we will see you back very soon in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Silicon.
Thank you.
Hello, hello, and we're back. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Silicon. How are you
Hey.
doing? Are you enjoying yourself so far?
I am. This is very, very fun.
Great. Yay. So, let's move on to our topics then. So we've talked about Fontaine, we talked about Guizhong and Ancient Liyue a little bit, we talked about Zhongli. Let's move on to the Harbingers. Of course, if anything comes up, you can feel free to bring it up at any point in time. But let's talk about the
Okay.
Harbingers a little bit and your thoughts just on the Harbingers in general. Like what do you want to share with us that you have like cooking in the mind pot of Silicon City?
In the mind pot that is always overboiling with too many lore thoughts. Um,
Exactly.
well, in general, I'm just excited for the Harbingers. I'm just excited to see more of them and learn more about them and just just oh my god, there's too many thoughts. But I want to know like the backstories of each one, why they joined the Fatui, and what their whole entire goal is. Because we know they're collecting the Gnosis, but why exactly? What are they going to use them for? Like, or rather, how are they going to use them against the heavenly principles and all that?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much about them. It's so much.
I mean, what's really funny? My favorite part about the Harbingers stuff is that like this um whole like that cutscene, the Midnight Summer, was it Piazzo? I think it was called something like that. Like a Midnight
Yeah.
Piazzo, I don't know, something Midsummer something. Anyway,
Winter
that
Night's
cuts.
Lazo. That's what
Yes,
it was.
Winter Nights. Was it
Winter Night's Lazo.
Winter Nights Lazo? That cutscene, right, of them like all sitting around the table and talking after Signora's death, right?
Yeah.
Um, came out randomly. Like, it's like one of the only, if not the only, cutscene that they released that wasn't actually in the game. I think, right? Like they just like
I think so.
released it,
Yeah.
and it was before we went to Sumeru, so obviously it was setting us up for the experiment in blasphemy, and we kind of just we haven't even seen their in-game character models yet, but we got introduced to every Harbinger in that situation, minus Scaramouche,
Oh
but we
yeah.
already knew Tartaglia, and then we saw Dottore shortly after, but we still
Yeah.
haven't seen anybody else, right? So, like, what is like the Harbinger you are most interested and curious about?
It's right now by a long shot about ones like we don't know much about. Right now by a long shot, it's Columbina.
Oh my God, yes.
He's
So,
like,
Columbina.
she's just. I have so many theories. Is she a Sealy? Is she an angel? Is she a one of the piece of the thousand winds? Is she related to Istroth in a way? It's like I've I had so many thoughts about her. I just want her to appear in Fontaine so we can get some just a little bit more about her.
Yeah. Like, have you seen like Child's about Columbina like quote where
I
he's basically like, I'm scared of her.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to pull it up again real quick, but I do remember that.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up right now. I just remember thinking like, man, like obviously, the singing is nice and all this stuff, but it is really like really mysterious. Um the way that they presented her, especially even in that cutscene, right? And
Yeah.
her whole look and everything, very very curious. So let's see here. What is her name? Uh,
I think it's Damn
Damselet.
Sled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Damselet. So the Fatui Harbingers are ranked by strength, and I have no idea why that girl is number 3. I'd test my skills with every Harbinger who ranks above me if I had the chance, but when it comes to her, something just doesn't feel right. Anyway, you should be careful around her.
So mysterious.
Yeah, and like, dude, child saying that, like, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, Child, the one who absolutely insane, a force to be reckoned with, feared on the battlefield, afraid of something.
Mm-hmm.
That that's saying something.
Right? So yeah, I'm really curious to see what the story is with her, and I also really am excited about Arlecchino.
Oh yes.
Yes, so like I said, the orphans things like this is gonna be like a Honkai Star Rail Honkai Impact like parallel thing, but like orphanages are a thing, and
Yeah.
like if you played the first world of Honkai Star Rail, or if you played like at least through the Sea of Quanta in Honkai Impact, then there is like a big connection to orphanages, to Sele, and to Bronya, and like I'm really curious if that's where we're gonna see some parallels to the Honkai universe there. Um,
Yeah.
oh
I was
man.
when I was reading about reading up on the lore about Welt, I came across that and the
Hmm.
parallels there, and I was like, interesting.
Right? Oh man. Yeah, Welch should just show up in Genshin too. Why not?
He better. He better. I would love that so much.
I know a couple people who would probably just like explode at that point. So,
I'd be
um,
one of them.
yeah, I mean, Welt enjoyers. Just add you to the list. He was my first 5-star from the banner in Honkai Star
No way,
Rail.
me too.
Yeah. Oh my God. See, there you go.
I think I got him in 3 pulls.
Oh my. Okay. Well, I hit all 50 from that first thing, but yeah. Anyway, that's cool. And yeah. So curious to see if the Harbinger's stories, right? Don't know. Obviously, the Tore's story in Sumeru was pretty expansive. Like there
Oh yeah,
was like a lot of we learned a lot about Dottore from this from the story. And
yeah.
now and we still know nothing about any of the other characters. So like imagine imagine if every character gets an arc like Dottore. This is going to be a long game. But
Oh, that'd be so cool.
it would be really cool. And I'm assuming that there will be a situation where at least one or two of the harbingers will be involved, kind of like how Scaramouche and Dottore were involved in this one. Um
Yeah,
so that we can learn about multiple at once. But it's kind of crazy just speculating on what the stories about these people could be about and what we're going to learn about them, you know?
yeah. I've seen people when I made my Harbingers video. There were a lot of people in the comments saying how Arlecchino is also kind of like a Jack the Ripper sort
Oh,
of inspiration because Knave and Jack and all of that. So it'd be, and that also ties in with her just being like the wolf in sheep's clothing, and there's that one NPC in Sumeru who's like in the village. I forget what the name of the village is. But he's like secretly a member of the Tui and from Arlecchino's orphanage, and if you let him live,
oh,
eventually you can find like a note from him in Lost Fauna on it. It's kind of implied that Arlecchino just came and just like, nope, bye, and just offed him.
right. That's crazy. My God. Yeah, I remember reading about that actually. I didn't get to do it myself, but I remember reading when I was looking up Arlecchino stuff. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so interesting. Um, yeah, so we know nothing about the harbingers, but like, so what are your theories? Like, what theories do you have that tie them to either the main story, what you think we're going to be doing in the future, Fontaine? Even I know we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But what are some of your theories about the harbingers in general?
Um, well, for the Harbingers in general, I just need to get the list of them right here so I
Oh
can
yeah, get it ready.
make.
I don't expect you to be able to say all this stuff off the top of your head. Just you probably have so much
Yeah.
written down.
I just wanted to get the list of their names so I don't accidentally leave anyone out.
Oh yeah, of
Vamara
course.
Village, thank you in the chat, thank you. That was the name.
Of Amara
But
Village. Okay.
yeah, starting with the ones that I'm hoping appear in Fontaine, I had four. I want to see a return of Dottore,
Hmm.
because technology,
Right.
and then also
A t-
Sandrone because she kind of seems, Fontaine like. I feel like
uh-huh.
she'd fit there. and
Androne.
then Columbina and Arlecchino both. Because I feel like
Bro, that's like
uh,
an all-star cast. Come on, like
I have high hopes. What can I say? Um,
yeah, I mean, I would love to see all those characters in this within the same span of the story, for sure.
yeah, because I feel like the reason for the first two, obviously the technological side of it,
Mhm.
and we heard Fontaine was like their energy source is kind of being depleted. So I feel like those two, Dottore and Sandrone, would come in and be like, "Hey, we can help as long as you help us," and that'd be kind of like the deal with getting the gnosis and stuff.
Mm.
And then the other side of it was Columbine and Arlecchino with more celestial implications
Mm.
because Celestia is right above Fontaine. Columbina seems really tied to that. And Arlecchino in the Commedia dell'arte, those two have a thing for each other. So I feel like in Genshin, they might take that and they might work together. So I feel like we'd see them both in Fontaine at the same time.
Mhm.
It's again, it's wishful thinking to see all four of them, but
Yeah.
it'd be really, really cool.
No, it would be for sure. Like, I mean, anything. Give us anything.
Give
We
me
w-
more.
we know nothing. You can't just drop this trailer and then never tell us anything about anything. Oh my god, it's crazy. Like,
I was up at 1 a.m. when that trailer dropped. I was getting ready for bed. I was up at 1 a.m. and I saw the trailer dropped and I was like,
oh my
"Well,
god.
guess I'm staying up for 2 more hours."
Yeah, I would explode. Like, that's crazy. I mean, I was living in Japan at the time, so it came out like midday for me or something like that. But
Oh,
it was like, it was just like, huh? What?
yeah, out of nowhere.
Did I miss something? And so, you know what's funny? This is just a totally side conversation thing, but like, I realized, so at that time, I was like, oh man, they're gonna release videos like this on the YouTube. I gotta really be on
Yeah.
up to date with the YouTube. And then after that, every video they ever released was just a cutscene of whatever was actually in game. And so if you ended up watching it when it dropped, you would actually spoil yourself on the story
Oh,
ahead of
yeah.
time. And I was like, well, now I don't want to watch anything on YouTube from them because all of it is literally just like what's going to happen. Like they'll drop that video the same day the patch drops. So unless you're like ignore it completely and then play the entire story and then watch the video, you're spoiling yourself. Like it's just the cutscene. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that was a crazy video. So
The one interesting
mm,
Oh, sorry.
no, say anything else?
There's just one other interesting thing about that trailer. There's the name A Winter Night's Laza, but there's also right before that it said Tevat chapter interlude teaser. So it made me wonder, are we gonna get like interlude quests revolving around these harbingers outside of the
Oh,
main Archon quests?
that is very interesting. That actually would make more sense than what we were talking about with like having four harbingers in one story quest.
Yeah, because like obviously some of them won't be featured in the main story. Like Pantalone, he feels like he's more focused on Liyue or like banking and stuff. So, and we obviously know him and Dottore work together. So it'd be interesting if we got an interlude quest where we like run into them and they're like, "Oh, hey," or something, and like
Oh
some
God,
whatever goes down in Liyue,
so
like because
scary.
the Northland Bank's there. Um, I did a video on Dorman Port a while ago. It was like 4 months now,
Hmm.
and I think I mentioned like maybe Pantalone could show up there, and he's like, "There's a Northland branch, Northland Bank branch up there in Dorman Port because that's probably close to Snezhnaya."
Right.
Um,
This is Mondstadt, right?
so like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
because I feel like Snezhnaya will be like real life Russia where it just goes over everything and it's like
R-
super long.
right. I think we kind
Um,
of get that idea too, just looking at the map.
yeah, so I feel like we could like get interlude quests with the other harbingers um to like fill in more of that lore and so that the story's not overflowing with harbingers and we're just like overwhelmed and they don't have room to breathe.
Right. Oh, I see in the chat here like Pantalone and Yelan's relationship. Like, I'm pretty sure
Oh yeah.
Yelan what stole the thing. Like that thing around her neck
Yeah.
is his, right?
Yeah, that was I used to read all the stories and make videos out of them. I don't anymore. But
Why not?
because it was just me reading the stories from it
And
and I want
I'm just kidding.
okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make more videos that were actually like
Like your
talking
actual
about it and explaining
speculation
it.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like explaining the lore rather than just being like, "This is from the game. Let me just read it."
Hmm.
Um, but before I did that, was one of the last ones I did, and yeah, I just did that. the thing around her neck is just a coat she stole from Pantalone, who was trying to give it as a gift to the streets. She was like, "Nope, that's mine."
So good. That's like hands down like 10 out of 10 character story right there.
Yeah.
Like I
Where'd you get that coat? I stole it from a harbinger who was gifting it to an archon, and
yeah,
they're like,
MBD
"Oh."
hashtag just yell on things.
Just Elon things. I love that.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm really curious to see what ties these harbingers have to other playable characters. So,
Yeah.
I mean, assumably there's a lot of characters we haven't met, and they'll have ties to those characters. But I mean, like you said, like if we go back to Liyue, or we go back to Mondstadt, or we go back to Inazuma even, and there's
Yeah.
like the interlude quests involving the harbingers, who do they know, and who's going to be involved in those quests? Like that's really interesting to me. So yeah, I don't know. All I know is I would love to see more Dia and Yoimiya because those are my two favorite characters. So
Oh, that's fair.
yeah, you know what? Give me more
Alright.
Kaching too while we're at it.
Yes, give me more Kajing.
Give me more
Did she
Kaching.
even I don't think she even got a story
I mean,
quest.
she's featured pretty heavily in the main story of Liyue, so
I
uh,
want more.
I mean, of course, like well. Also, Chi Chi story quest when we
I
have
want a Chi story
I
quest.
personally thought like that they kind of had to wait to release Baiju story quest before they could release Chi Chi story quest because they're probably super intertwined.
Oh,
So
yeah, that makes sense.
right, so like now that we know like that all this cool stuff Baiju can do, might as well tie that into like how he found Chi Chi or how Chi Chi is and what he learned from her and what her whole
Yeah.
story is. So yeah, I mean one day that'd be nice. I think it would be kind of ridiculous to never see a 5-star story quest for Chi Chi and Kaching. That'd
Oh
be kind of
yeah.
crazy for me. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I guess.
Just give me them. Give me the story quests. Give me the interlude quests. Give me more quests so I can learn more lore. And
Yeah,
I
and
don't know.
give us the ability to replay past events, please and
Yes.
thank you. Like
Or if not, like replaying them, at least like give us like a summary of what happened in games so we can like read it and or what is it called? Give
the
us like a
the
gallery so
script.
we can watch
Yeah,
the cutscenes.
yeah, that too. Yeah, I would love if they did what they do now and they just give us the whole script.
Yeah, because it'd be so much better. Because like a lot of people don't know those events exist. Like sure they're on the wiki, but they don't know those events exist. And like me when I first learned about Skyrim, it was just like, oh well, cool, I can't wait to meet him. And since I started playing at the end of 1.2,
Uh huh.
I was waiting a little bit.
Oh no. I mean,
But
to the people that were waiting for Baiju since 1.0,
oh my god, yeah.
I commend your patience. Yeah, that's the
It's so
biggest
much.
gap so far. Like from like shown in game to being playable. So,
Yeah, like from launch to what
mhm.
was it, like 2.5 years?
Yep.
It's crazy.
And I think the next character that's gonna be like that is Dainsleif. Like
Oh yeah.
he'll be the longest like from shown in game to playable. It's gonna be a really long time probably still. Especially because I still theorize that like he's gonna have like abyssal energy or imaginary energy or something like quantum or imaginary
Oh,
type
I didn't
deal.
even think about imaginary energy.
Yeah, so now that you're like got into Honkai a little bit, the theories about like there being two more elements in the future, having basis in quantum energy and imaginary energy because it's all part of the Hoyoverse, um, having like what I like to call abyssal energy and celestial energy, and it would be the same concept. It would be light and dark, and how they interact with other elements is going to probably flip the whole game on its head again. So, you know what I mean?
Oh my god, that's blowing me away
I
because
can hear it.
I I didn't even consider that as like, oh yeah, imaginary energy. That's really cool. It comes from the imaginary tree.
Yep.
Anyways,
Yep. I mean, think
didn't
about it,
even
right? Like
think
we have they keep saying abyssal power and stuff, and there has to be
yeah.
power to rival this abyssal power. And
We
it's
will defy this world with a power from beyond.
yeah.
All makes so much sense now.
Yeah, I think abyssal power the world is being swallowed by the quanta and it's going to be imaginary and it's going to represent itself as celestial energy and abyssal energy. So, Yeah, that's my favorite theory in terms of like how the game will drastically change in the future. Because like you look at Dane's life, he's definitely not going to use any element we have now, hundred
Oh
percent.
yeah,
You know, so it has to be a new element, and your sibling
blue cloud.
too. Like, bro, can you imagine? Because you can't change your character. Imagine if your sibling just
Yeah,
becomes playable, and they can
that'd be
wield
really cool.
like. I mean, they would essentially wield all the same powers you can wield. So you would be able to have two travelers on your team. That would be so cool. Yeah.
Oh my god. Well,
So
I want the end game. Just forget about Fontaine. Forget about Nala. Forget about Snowflake. Give me Conria.
yeah, give me Connor, give me Celestia, give me all, give me the world is a lie, give me that, all of that. Did you see the new Subutai edits trailer?
I haven't watched it yet. I haven't had the time, but I've been waiting to.
It's so
I've been
good. Yeah,
I've been wanting to. I need. Let me just. I need to just open up YouTube now so I have it. So I can watch it after.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely watch it and let me know because
Oh,
it is like a very cool quick cut representation of like the whole of what Gnosis and Celestia have to do with the Archon quest in the story.
yeah.
So obviously like he uses everything from in game. There's nothing made up. So it's all accurate lore wise as far as a movie trailer can be accurate lore wise. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah. I saw like the behind the scenes stuff that they were doing,
uh-huh.
like how it's all made in Blender and everything. And it looks so cool, and I'm really excited to watch it. I just haven't had the time yet, but
Yeah.
I'm really excited to watch that now.
Yeah, it's great. So um yeah, I mean I would definitely recommend checking out the theories around the new elements because they're as now that like if now that Honkai because like Honkai Impact already existed for a while. And now
Yeah.
Honkai Star Rail people are actually getting into the Honkai lore. And so, if we're talking about the Hoyo verse that really ties these all together, then this is sort of there are ways to sort of preview what may be coming to Genshin by like just paying attention to the mechanics and the world of Honkai. So
I'm gonna need to play Honkai Impact soon, aren't I?
maybe if you want, it's very very complicated and has a lot of takes a lot of time. It's basically a visual novel where every chapter takes multiple hours
Oh.
to just read. So if you're okay with that, that means sounds good. Cool thing about Honkai Impact Third is you actually don't have to play the gacha at all. You can
Oh.
as you play through story, they give you the units you need to experience the
Oh
chapters,
wow.
kind of like trial characters for every mission. So
Hmm.
yeah, so it's pretty much just a time sink commitment. So I'm like what, like halfway through it or something. The story's so long,
Oh my
but
god.
it is
I've seen
it's
that.
so interesting. It's really interesting, and when you think about how it implies, because I didn't start really getting into it until after Genshin. So when I start thinking about how this could tie to Genshin, it becomes that much more interesting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I've
because
seen I've
Genshin, Genshin.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've watched a few videos and like the connections and everything and all these other elements.
Mm-hmm.
And back then I didn't really understand like what's this imaginary stuff they're talking about. But now I'm like, oh my god, it makes so much sense.
Exactly. Like I think that there's no way they're not building to something like that. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of time and how they decide to introduce it that we're kind of waiting for. So they've already introduced the concept of abyssal power as being separate from the elements, and like you said, using a power from beyond to challenge that is going to
Yeah.
be a key factor. I think it wouldn't I wouldn't be surprised if we were the first character to even get celestial power through the
That would be
story.
really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that's like some of my favorite stuff involving the future of Genshin and where it could go because we already saw adding Dendro to the game changed the entire game. Like
Oh yeah.
the game is Dendro centric now. I'm really curious to see how they're gonna pull away from Dendro with the new introduction of Fontaine and what new characters and things that they can do. I talked about wanting augments to current reactions involving Hydro, sort of
Ooh,
similar to like Nilu blooms. Um, so yeah, I think that that's one way they can really change the game. Um, by making you
I
build
think
specific teams.
I think they'd be like if they add this new element I've been thinking of called Geo, because like
What are you
I think
talking
it'd
about?
be
G that is that yo. We don't talk about leaks on this podcast, so like I don't
no,
know.
no, this is just a theory. Don't worry. It's just a theory. Like it'd be like a buff support sort of element thing, you know?
Oh yeah,
Um,
it would make sense like to be like opposite of Animo, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that makes sense. Like wind,
Could
earth, yeah.
Yeah, it could help produce like like shields and stuff for characters as well. I think it'd be a really good idea.
Um, speaking of that, we actually had a what is it called? Like I asked a question to my podcast viewers of like what kind of augmented abilities would you like to see? Like augmented reactions would you like to see similar um to like Needle Blooms, right? Like a character has the
Yeah,
ability to augment these reactions. And someone said something like um augmenting Geo and like the crystals on the ground to like do different things. Or
that would be really cool.
you augment like the crystallized lightning would like turn into actual like lightning that jumps between the crystals, or like things like that. Like it would be really cool. I don't know, there's so many things they could do with it. um
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Geo is in desperate need of a buff.
It is, and now that we have more Dendro characters than Geo characters, which blows my mind because Kirara
It's
being
crazy.
released makes it 8 Dendro, and I think we only have 7 Geo.
Yeah,
um that is not okay. Like that is like,
not okay at all.
I get it. You waited to introduce this element, like, it's a new shiny thing. We're in Sumeru. Okay, okay. But now I have a feeling we won't see Dendro characters for a while.
Yeah,
We have too many.
too
Period.
many different characters. We haven't seen a Geo character since Yunjin in 2.4,
Dude,
which is so long ago.
I don't I just don't like hearing that sentence out loud. Like that's so sad. Like, oh my god. So
It's like, and they tease us with like some boss dropping Geo gems and stuff, but oh no, no new characters.
yeah, and
Same
like
here.
when like it's just crazy. Like first of all, there's no Geo character in the standard banner, which is another,
Yeah.
like, I know there were rumors of not Alhaitham, Albedo coming to the standard banner a long time ago. Never
Oh yeah.
happened. Uh, Still makes no sense that it didn't happen. I get that they added Tenari. Great, we have a Geo representation. I mean, we have a Dendro representation, and then we got
Yeah.
Dia, which is like, I mean, I'm okay with that because I love Dia, and I'd love to lose my 50-50 to Dia. It's kind of a win for me. But we don't have a single Geo character in there. Like,
Yeah.
come on. So yeah.
Give him here.
Yeah, like literally anybody, like, or you know what? Just make Ningguang 5 star. Just do what she was supposed to do, be a 5 star. Um,
Like I saw her in that, in like what was it, the interlude, the first interlude quest with Baish and everything, and she did that thing where she just like had this huge wall of Geo, I don't know, rock things that just fired at Baish from beside the Jade Chamber, and we're like, and I was like, yeah, that's a 4 star, I guess.
yeah, no, but like, and Barbara has an animation on her
Yeah.
on her burst. Like, okay, so clearly they meant for these characters to be 5 stars, like in some capacity. But it's just crazy. Yeah. Oh my god, have you heard about this new character named Eula? Oh my god, I know. Like we
Oh,
don't
I
talk
think
about that here, but I don't know. It seems like pretty sus. I don't think this character is ever coming out.
yeah, I've been hoping for like a physical DPS, but
Yeah, I've been hoping
I don't
for
know.
like a
It's
blue-haired physical DPS from Mondstadt who who
yeah.
dances. Like I've been hoping
I
for
think
that.
it's I think those rumors are a bit off. I don't know if we're gonna get it.
Oh man, this is such a sad conversation. Okay, so so like nonchalantly just like being sad about things we don't get to see in the game. I started building my Eula just cause that, like, you know what, fine, my
Just like
Eula's gonna be good, you know.
just like I have Eula.
Yeah, exactly. Like I do the same thing with Aloy. Like I have my Aloy at level 90, and I'm just like, you know what, Aloy, I should just run Spiral Abyss with those two, honestly.
It's such a flex these days to still have Aloy.
Right? I can't believe that she just is gone. Like, where are the
Yeah,
collabs? You know what I mean? Like, what?
like
Where are the
they didn't even like
costumes? I'll pay money for costumes. Give me
yeah.
costumes. Like,
They didn't even give us her constellation. She's like, it is not time to unlock this constellation yet or whatever.
I
It's like, when
know,
is the time?
so crazy.
Give me
Like,
it.
do I have to buy Horizon 7 times? Like, how does it work? Like, so, yeah.
Each time you buy the PS5 with Horizon Zero Dawn, you get one Aloy constellation.
Honestly, like, they like Aloy could just be completely relevant again if they added constellations in the game. And just
Oh
out, and
yeah,
they just like made it like augmented so her ability hits better and her cooldowns are lower. Like that's it. Like that's literally would make her more viable.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she can do like insane damage, but
Mhm.
she just got done so dirty in every other way.
It's true. Um. Yeah. So enough of the sad conversations about things that could have been. What about Istaroth? So tell me a little bit about your thoughts.
Isra.
on Istaroth, the goddess of time.
Well, I had made a theory video a long time ago now
Mhm.
about Istaroth and how I think that she is quite literally everywhere in Genshin, and like how like maybe a certain select number of characters are pieces of her, because we know Venti is a piece of the Thousand Winds. He came from a wisp of the Thousand Winds,
Right?
and Istaroth is also known as the Thousand Winds of Time. So I kind of based off that. What if there are other characters who are pieces of Istaroth? And like I talked about the Moon Sisters, the Goddess of Flowers, Columbina, um, even
Paimon.
Guizhong, Paimon. Yeah, I think I mentioned that at. I may have mentioned that in the end. I don't think I gave her her own section,
Mm.
but like there's just like so many characters that could have like some sort of relation to her. Um, and like it's really interesting to me because then there's also the statue in Inazuma of the thousand-armed, hundred-eyed god,
Mm.
which I was like, well, that's probably Istaroth. That's like definitely Istaroth. Like at this point, to me, that's Istaroth. Um, and I was talking about it in the videos, like thousand or hundred-eyed. So her eyes are everywhere. Like her eyes are just the other characters
Oh.
watching over the world, and they kind of report back, perhaps unknowingly,
Right.
to um to
Istaroth.
Istaroth.
Yeah.
And the one I was really focused on, going back to Columbina, it was Columbina. She was the one I was focused on really, or was the most interested in of the ones, because I noticed in the teaser with all the harbingers, we never see her eyes open. They're always closed. Like,
True.
she's leaning against the coffin, her eyes are
Mhm.
closed. She's standing at the end, her eyes are closed. I don't know if it was just for the coffin, but and she has, like, her mask, like, blindfolded over her eyes. So, what if she's doing that to block Istaroth out? And,
Oh
like,
my god.
she
I
has, like, a relation to
I
Istaroth,
I
she's
hate
blocking it
this.
out.
This bothers me so much. What
Yeah,
a
but I
theory. What a theory.
yeah, like, it's like, what if, like, because she seems more celestial than the other harbingers. She seems like she would be related to Celestia in some way. So, I mean, what if it could be?
Wait, so you how long ago did you make this video?
I'd have to check. It was, like, probably February?
Wait,
Let's
February
see.
meaning like 3 months ago?
Yeah,
Oh, what the heck? That's not that long. Okay, um so like so you say Paimon didn't
yeah.
get your section in that video, but like don't you think she's so sus?
I do think she's really sus, but I don't think she's sus in a God of Time way. I think she's sus in more. I think the shades, they fall in time, space, life, and death, and I think she fits more into the space category. Um,
Well she does just kind of fly
yeah,
and has
like
this like spatially looking aesthetic.
yeah, I feel like she'd fit more into like a space category instead. And the other reason, my mind just blank. Sorry.
Mhm.
But yeah, like there was like for the time part, there is like the changing time within the Paimon menu,
Uh-huh.
but I think that's just like a game mechanic.
I don't
Like
know,
I feel
man.
like
When you pause the game in
yeah,
Honkai Star
that's
Rail, it
saying
doesn't
that.
freeze.
Yeah, there's that.
it's
Like
it's just like that Paimon comes out and the world stops whenever you pause the menu, right? That
yeah,
that bothers me. And then the Lantern Rite is one example, but like her like perception of time is sometimes off, and she kind of states that, and that might be like a ditzy character thing, but
yeah,
um like there are times where like she literally uses the word time and like how her perception is off of it, whether it's like I didn't think it was that long or that was too long, and it's like what are you talking about, it's only been like this amount of time, and this is like outside of that whole the chasm situation, right?
yeah. Oh, now
So
that you say all that, it's okay. Now I'm leaning back towards her relating to time. Oh, this is Paimon.
yeah, and
Paimon.
Paimon is just like a weird phenomena in general, like first of all, not only do we not know anything about her past, um
Yeah,
and how we fished her out of the water, like okay, hello, and then like, she just becomes your best friend. She can fly. Nobody knows what she is. She's like a tiny person, but like not. And um, nobody really questions it. And yeah, there's the argument that like there's just a bunch of weird crap in Teyvat, so like maybe no one would question it. But the more that we travel with her, like the more sus that she seems at certain moments. And I think it's really interesting because your theory about her being an eye, unknowingly being an eye of Isroth, like makes me think that Paimon could be a literal part of Isroth that she created and formed to watch the traveler, to like keep an eye on the traveler through their journey in Teyvat. And whether whether that Isroth is guiding the traveler and is either has alternate motives or is just a good, is a good person presence that is trying to help the traveler
Yeah.
with their mission. Either way, with your theory, I feel like now I'm even more sus of Paimon because I never thought about the fact that like Paimon could be unknowingly uh working for someone else like like the god of time if she is not the god of time herself.
Yeah.
And so like, and then there's this like whole conversation of Zhongli where he's like in his story quest like you're here to record everything, like this, you're the descender, like blah blah blah, all this stuff. Like there is merit to following the traveler around and being with them through all this stuff. And Paimon is affected by Irminsul and everything. So Paimon kind of does exist within the laws of this world supposedly.
Yeah.
Um and so, you know, keeping that in mind, it's just a thing that seems really sus.
I didn't even think about it that way. Oh my gosh. Paimon, why are you like this, Paimon?
Paimon,
Okay,
please.
Paimon, please. But like, okay, now that makes actually a lot of sense now. Like, Istroth watching over us, I feel like she would be more of that gentle guide type
Mm-hmm.
because she helped the people of Ankonomiya. And back in that video, that was before the 3.5 Hexen Circle event,
Mm-hmm.
where we learned that the voice that talked to us at the end of the interlude quest with Wanderer was Nicole. And
Right.
before that, I had thought it was Istaroth because like she would be watching over us, and because she's a god of time, that she would be able to like figure out because I guess figure out in a way the truth behind what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because she's just so powerful, she'd be able to be like, oh yeah, that's not true. Because if a witch can do it and be like, yeah, that's not true, a shade of the primordial one definitely could.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
where is
So
she?
I'm curious
What
to
is she?
hear your if you would make a video and include this in it. I'm curious to hear your researched thoughts on this because like while I attribute a lot of things in video games typically to like sheer coincidence,
Yeah,
I think Hoyoverse is very deliberate about the way they do a lot of things, um, and especially like where they mention things and how they mention things and who mentions them. And um, I think that, and even the wording, I think that the localization for like this originally Chinese game
yeah,
is the wording is really really picked at, especially from English and Chinese together.
yeah,
So I wouldn't be surprised if they are just constantly dropping hints through these little moments with Paimon, the traveler who we know nothing about. Like the Paimon traveling with us, a companion who we know nothing about,
yeah,
actually. Um, and it just makes it really sus. Like this is like a totally separate thing, I think maybe, but it could play into this. Is like we don't know how much the traveler, our character, actually knows, right? Which like is also like a weird thing because I remember it sounded like it was a joke, but I remember when Lillipar, when you join up with Lillipar and she's like, "Are you a like a prince or like you a royalty of some sort?"
yeah,
And you can say like yes, and then she's just like, "Oh yeah, I knew it," and then that's it. You move on. It's like it's not even like, "Oh, just kidding, I'm not royalty. I don't know who I am." It's like, no, I'm royalty. Like I know who I am, like in some way. So it was like really sus to me hearing all that. So
oh yeah.
Traveler Paimon sus. There's just sus, man. Like they who are they? Like even really? Like we play as them so much. But yeah.
like there's the thing that Paimon forgot the stuff from Irminsul,
Mhm.
and there's also the thing that she was knocked out by Dottoro's burr sound effect thing in the Archon quest,
Mhm.
which is interesting. But she's also said in a voice line, "Oh yeah, Paimon's a god. She's the god of protection, or something." Like it could be a joke, but it could be also that she's legitimately a god.
Yeah, whether she
She,
knows it or not, like she might not be aware.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, what if the sound wave didn't affect her, but she had to fake it, and she had to fake it in order to like keep being that
Right.
protector,
Keep
that
the
guide for
cover.
the traveler.
Yeah. Cuz
And
she's probably really smart is kind of the whole thing, right? I think the
yeah,
being dumb is a deflection. Um of sorts might not be always 100% inaccurate, but like the way she kind of acts aloof, I think is
yeah.
very also sus. So sus. So sus.
Sus. And
Um
she also like has like a really good memory. Like when we're doing like quests and stuff, she'd be like, um, we'll have something at the beginning that we have to do, and then we'll have to go and do something else, and then she'll be like, oh yeah, we have to go back and do this now,
mhm.
and like she'll be the one to like always remember it and be like, yeah, don't forget we have to do this. She has like a really good
Yeah.
memory. Like
Memory
it's
or knowledge of what needs to be done at what time.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like she's just the more I think about it now, the more she's so suspicious.
Yeah. Like she's just been right under your nose this entire time, Silicon.
No
Can't
way.
can't let that go.
No way.
Yeah, so so any other thoughts about like Istroth specifically that you might be like kind of just buzzing about? Because we have, you said, Istroth influence in every culture. I mean,
Yeah.
like, who knows what kind of part that they will play in the upcoming Fontaine. But is there anything else that may be tied to your theories in general that you also tied Istroth to, or like something that's just kind of fuzzy gray area that you're wondering about besides what we already talked about?
Well, I did throw out the idea once that Istroth would have some sort of influence on Fontaine. I'm not exactly sure what sort of influence, but I do have a feeling that because Celestia is like right up there, just right, just floating above there, and that she's a shade, she's gonna have some sort of, at least there's gonna be some sort of reference to her, some sort of mention of her, or heck, even an appearance from her would be absolutely incredible. Um, but I feel like she will be, in a way, part of the Fontaine story. Maybe not directly, but like just like mentioned here and there that she has been there. She has had some sort of influence there,
Mm-hmm.
and because I feel like they're gonna build more and more towards Istaroth as well, because she seems to be, in my opinion, the most benevolent of the three, not the three shades, the four shades.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other three, we learned on Konomiya, she was the only one who sort of just helped them.
Right.
The other three were like, nah, fam, they're good, and kind of wanted them to be sealed underground.
Right.
But she still went out of her way to help them, which is just really interesting. Like, I want to know more about her in Fontaine. I feel like it would work
Uh-huh.
in Fontaine as well, being its location and
Right.
just all that stuff.
So she gave them the plans to create the Dainichi Mikoshi, right?
Yeah,
Right, right. Like the day night thing.
day night thing.
Yeah, yeah, that. That is interesting. Man, I was actually like originally not that interested in Economia until the actual event happened. Like the
Yeah.
like with the bishop people.
Oh, yeah, that event
Um
was really fun.
it was really cool, and that made me like like really fired up to like explore Economia and learn more about it.
Yeah.
Because at that point I just wanted to leave Inazuma, because it was like so dark, and then they were like, "Here, go down darker into the depths of the abyss," and then like, "Oh, okay."
You're
um,
tired of the dark? Here, into this pit you go.
yeah, exactly. Like here, like kicks you into a whirlpool, like, yeah. But it was something else. But now I'm learning like how important Enkanomiya civilization is to like understanding what the world was like before. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's so cool. But yeah, I wonder, Isroth, like, the other shades are just chilling, and she's like, yeah, I'll help.
Homies need some help.
Yeah. So, is there any last things that you kind of want to just like talk about and mention that you either like things you want to see in Genshin going forward, besides quality of life updates, and
Yeah.
like like story lore wise, like that we haven't already talked about that you're just like, man, I would love to see this, and I've been talking about this forever, but it still hasn't happened yet, but I really want it to happen. You have something like that?
Well, I did recently, I think it was Monday actually,
Uh
put
huh.
out a video about Skirk.
Oh
Um,
my god. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. I want to know more about her. I want to know if she's part of the Hexen Circle. Will she get like hints towards Fontaine? And if not, I really hope that when we get to Snezhnaya, we get another abyssal realm, which is would have been where, as a child, as a child
Child.
fell
Yep.
into
Yep.
the pit.
Yo,
But like,
are we gonna get yeeted into the abyss and then Child has to come save us? And then we
oh,
meet
that'd be so
Skirk?
cool.
Oh my god.
Like, I want to meet her. I want to know what she's like. I had the thought that like maybe she's an abyss herald, but oh, but then again, like she's human. Child would probably recognize her as a human instead.
Right.
That's one of my comments was like, "What about Enjo?" And I was like, "How did I forget about
Yeah,
Enjo? He's like my
Enjo.
favorite."
Yeah.
Like he can just have a human form, so it would work. But like, it would work that she could be an abyss herald, and that's how, all like Child's fighting techniques are abyss herald esque.
Mhm.
And exactly, Skirk interlude, I would love that. Um, like, I want I just need more Skirk lore. I wanna know more about those mysterious characters. It's like all the it my thing is just characters we know next to nothing about, like, when I first started, it was Guizhong, then Istaroth, and now Skirk. It's like
I'm
all these characters that we've had, like, mentions very few mentions of, it's like,
I'm
yeah,
gonna be honest, I think we're gonna hear more about Captain Varka before we hear about Skirk.
yeah, probably.
But
I mean, I wouldn't complain about that.
yeah, and oh my god, Vanessa. So like you saw the new
Yes,
TCG card, The Legend of Vanessa?
I did.
I was like,
It
"Oh
looks
my
so
god,
pretty.
look at it." It's like I was like, "It's her."
It's
Like it's
her.
the first in-game visual we have of Vanessa, right? Like
I think so,
I think
yeah.
so. Like I think there was a comic that featured Vanessa as like a young
Yeah.
like prisoner sort of person, and then they kind of showed her from the back like with Jean's outfit. I think there was that, but this new card of the Legend of Vanessa where she like has that brilliant long red hair but like is wearing
Oh,
like
yeah.
the the grand captain of Favonius like whatever clothes. So cool. Just like
Oh,
makes me
it's so,
think
so
like,
cool.
dang, that person ascended to Celestia from what does ascending to Celestia even mean?
Yeah.
What the heck? Like, yeah. Anyway, so sorry. It's like
There's
that's another podcast episode.
yeah,
Um.
'cause there's, like there's Vanessa who ascended, there's Guhua,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then people think and I agree, it could be, Harunosuke at the end of the version 2.2 event with, Shiki Taisho.
Mm.
Um, like, he, like, kinda glows gold
Yeah.
and then just
My God, I
disappears.
forgot about that.
It's like, did he ascend to Celestia? Because I think in the manga, when Vanessa ascends, because we
She
see her
glows.
ascend.
Yeah, she glows gold.
Yeah. Yeah, she, like, kinda exits as, like, an outline of a gold falcon before, like, transforming into the falcon itself. It's
That would
so
be. I'd have to go look up that event again. Dang. See, if it was in game, I could look it up in game. But nope, I have to go to some content creator, and this is why content creators are super important right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Before.
Genshin Lore is just, like, all over the place. You have to, like it's like solving a puzzle, but one piece is here at your house, and the other piece is
Yeah.
100 miles away.
It's very Genshin lore is very was it transient, and
Yeah.
comes and goes as it pleases. It is fleeting like life, like oh
Because there's
man,
so much of it. You forget other bits, and then, like, you, like, look at all these other things like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense," and then you forget about this other thing. It's like,
I
"Wait,
I
what
mean,
about that?"
and to make matters worse, I know we have 5 minutes left, but
Yeah.
like the what's it called? The fungi, like Pokemon esque like event where we had to like battle fungi with each
Yeah,
other. That had the separate side story going on the whole time,
they did, yeah.
and
I didn't even know about it.
yeah, like how are you supposed to know? But there's nothing in game that hints you to that, and you're just supposed to like go to like some random location in the middle of all of Sumeru and like
Yeah.
meet an NPC who's not marked on your map in any capacity. Crazy to me, like actually crazy. Like so yeah, if you haven't already seen it, like go look up on YouTube. I think Cat with Blue Hat makes a video about it. There's some
Yeah.
probably some videos about it where during that fungi event where we first meet Layla, um, is like a whole side story that happens involving the Fatui and the guy that was involved in the plot of the fungi thing. And though we don't see it, it happens off screen. There is implications that this guy is killed by the Fatui pyro agent that you find there, and you fight that Fatui pyro agent. And you pick up like a document that tells you about their exchange, and it is a
Yeah.
it is like all happening in a limited time event in a random place with no indication that it is happening. So
If that doesn't sum up Genshin lore, I don't know what does.
yeah, so it is not something you could ever find without knowing about it, and or without just like happening to be randomly in that place and then like realizing that that NPC is not supposed to be there. And yeah, I kind of wish that they would do what they did with the Parade of Providence event and just like stick
Yeah.
a thing on the map where it's like there's an NPC here, you should go talk to them, you know? Like like that would change everything. So Genshin lore.
Genshin lore.
We love
It's
it,
all
but
place.
it is presented very, very I don't know, broken up. Like, yeah.
Yeah, a puzzle piece that just been scattered around the
Hey,
world.
you had that puzzle piece I lent you like a couple months ago. Can I borrow? Can I borrow that? Yeah.
Sorry, I lost it. I don't know where it went. It's
Uh,
all over the place. There's
don't
too
worry.
many.
I'll check YouTube.
Check YouTube for the puzzle piece.
Yeah. But
Like
yeah.
seriously, I feel like at this point Genshin's like a million piece puzzle, and like they're just scattered everywhere, and you have to just figure out all these little bits, and then like I've done something where I made a theory, I've made it into a video, and someone in the comments like, "Well, what about this random book that you find somewhere?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah, like oh crap. Like
forgot about that."
yeah, I mean, I bless the people who manage the wiki and who like put
Yeah,
all of this stuff in there. But it is a lot. Like it is a lot of finding stuff. So I mean, come Fontaine, it's gonna be like, oh my god, it's gonna be so much work to get all this stuff compiled together.
yeah, and I wanna work to like actually understand it soon because Sumeru lore, I was not on top of that. It took me so long to actually understand everything with Deshret and everything,
Oh
but
yeah, I mean even like yeah, I think I even done it in game because you have to like do a bunch of extra side stuff and it counts toward like
yeah,
world exploration and before you can even unlock the rest of the story. So it is I mean for you who likes to 100% Breath of the Wild kind of person,
oh
probably
yeah,
you know
I have 100% in every area in Genshin
there you
and
go.
maxed out to 7, so
There you go. Have you gotten all the Oculuses?
oh yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. See, I don't even have to say anything else to you. Um, but yeah, so we're closing in about 2 minutes. Like, is there anything else you want to say to everybody? Anything you want to mention before we end the podcast?
I need to think lore-wise, I don't know, because we already covered so much stuff and my brain's already fried.
Okay, sorry about
Um,
that.
no, it's okay. It's okay. I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out. This was a ton of fun being here. So thank you for inviting me. Thank you everyone for being here. It was such a lot of fun. Brain's not Englishing properly right now, but thank you everyone. This was really, really cool.
Yes, and just as a reminder, the VOD will remain on here on Twitch for about a week, and then we
Yep.
will upload to the YouTube in about another week or 2 weeks, and then you can go ahead and share it or watch it again if you want to hear our discussion from today. You know, because much like Genshin, we have to go to YouTube to see things we talked about one time. Um,
Oh yeah.
so yeah, so thank you everybody for hanging out with us. Make sure to check out SiliconOneFour on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
Oh yeah.
Make sure to check out my podcast at twitch.tv/Jside, also the Genshin Guys podcast. But until next time, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you again next time and soon. So bye guys, bye, thank you.
Bye everyone.